glad you guys could. I'm so glad you guys could join us. And I am going to share my screen with you, just so you know. Oh, there's Tammy. Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
Let's see. I'm going to get the screen shared. Where is it? Okay. Who can share? Okay. It's not working.
What kind of message are you getting? Anything?
It says advanced sharing options. Who can share? And I have to say only host or all participants. And then who can start sharing when someone else is sharing? But that one's not highlighted.
Is there like when you kind of like hover towards the bottom of your screen in the middle, does it say share screen? Can you just click that?
Yep. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, just.
Oh, there it went finally.
Got it? Okay, got it. Cool.
Okay, give me a second here. That's what I did wrong. Okay. I think I got it now.
Awesome.
There's everybody. Let's see. Can everybody see?
Yep.
Courtney, can you see?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, I just want to welcome everyone here. I'm so glad you could join us tonight. My name is barb.anderley, and I am the Director of Caregiver Support. Some of you know Teresa Henson. She is my coworker.
That's my cousin.
And that's what I heard. And somebody else is Deb, your aunt is on there. Is that right?
Yes, that's my Aunt Linda.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Well, today we're going, so Teresa and I both work for Cassia Caregiver Support Services. And today we're going to discuss self-care for the caregiver, probably better described as how to create balance in your life. Now we're going to go through this, and when we get to the end, if there's anyone that has some questions, you're more than welcome to ask any questions if you want. So let's start by talking about who is a caregiver. A caregiver is someone typically over the age of 18 who provides care for another person. It may be a family caregiver that takes care of their family member with or without pay. It could be a paid professional or even a volunteer. What is the role of a caregiver? Caregivers are people who are responsible for the physical care and or emotional support of someone who can no longer care for themselves due to illness, injury, or disability. This could be for a short period of time or maybe long term. Where is a caregiver? A caregiver typically cares for someone in their home. We all want to age in place ourselves, and we want that for our loved ones also. So you could be a caregiver, say, for your own parent who lives in their own home, or maybe you have a parent living with you, possibly a spouse that lives with you, or either one, a parent or a spouse that could live in an assisted living or a nursing home. If you are their first contact, you are their caregiver. When do we expect to be a caregiver? You know, we think when we get married that we know what to expect. Sometimes it's a little different, but we think we know. And of course, when we decide to have children, we generally know that we'll be their caregiver until they're out of school. As our parents age, We often need to make sure they are okay. It might be things like just making sure they're getting their groceries. It could be getting them to a doctor's appointment. And sometimes when our grandchildren are born, we help out with their care also. And if you're like me, you're caring for your elderly parents and you're helping your son, your single son, with his daughter. So that's a lot of time where what we call the sandwich generation, of course. So I want to tell you a little bit about a couple that I know, and I'm just going to use them as an example. I want to tell you about Melvin and Tanya. In 1997, Melvin was 60 years old. Tanya was 59. As you can imagine, they were making plans for retirement and traveling while they retired. Then Melvin had to go in for just a routine rotator cuff surgery. When the surgery was complete, Tanya was sitting with him in the recovery room when he started slurring his speech. Tanya knew something was wrong and went to get help. And sure enough, Melvin had a stroke. And the doctors told Tanya and the rest of the family that he would never walk again. Well, Melvin did learn to walk with a walker, but their life was forever changed that day with that stroke. Over the next 20 years, Melvin had many strokes or falls. That would put him in the hospital, back into a nursing home for rehab, and then he would return home for Tanya to take care of him. During that 20 years, Tanya also started having health issues. Every morning and every night, she had to lift his legs in and out of bed. She ended up having 2 knee replacements and had back pain to the point where she couldn't even stand up straight anymore. In 2017, 20 years after his initial stroke, Melvin needed to move into the nursing home to stay because he had become too difficult for her to care for at home. He lived for about 15 months before he died. Tanya was now 80 years old. Who plans to be a caregiver at 80 years old? No one. No one includes you, your spouse, and your family. At first, when something happens, like his initial stroke, survival is everything. All you're worried about is making sure that he lives, making sure that you have him there with you. As time goes by, medical complications and quality of life issues, there are things to worry about. Through it all, you, the caregiver, do the best you can. You stay in the background and you seldom complain. After all, it wasn't you dealing with all the tough physical, emotional, and social stuff, or was it? Do you ever feel like you're alone? During my talk today, Teresa and I work with many caregivers. And throughout my slides, I have a few quotes that I'd like to tell you about caregivers that Teresa and I support. This quote says, "Caring for my loved one is the greatest gift I have ever been able to give. I want my loved one to know how much they have given to me, and I am always saying, I love you, and I'm sorry that things are turning out this way, but we're here together to make it through." Caregiver burnout. I don't know if any of you have a diagnosis of caregiver burnout, but it's a real diagnosis. Every one of us throughout our life has stress, but caregivers have more of it. Why do you think that is? Because they're responsible for themselves and more people. This can result in the caregiver having health problems themselves, loss of sleep, physical and emotional exhaustion. One group of caregivers studied had 75% higher stress levels than the general population. If you're a caregiver experiencing stress, it may help to talk to someone about it. It could be a friend, a family, or maybe just another person going through the same or similar experience. I have another quote. Be ready for some tough times and bring your patience. That's from one caregiver. Another one said, it's one thing to care for someone that's not your family. It's a whole different story to help your parents. She gave me a story about helping her father in the bathroom and how he was almost teary-eyed saying, I don't want you to have to wipe my bottom. And she said, I don't want to have to wipe your bottom either, Dad, but who's going to do it? Warning signs of caregiver burnout. If you have anger or frustration towards the person you are caring for, that's going to affect your day and your care for them. Anxiety, depression, complete exhaustion, whether it be physical or emotional, physical health problems, inability to concentrate, irritable or moody, sleeplessness, or social withdrawal. One family member said, when caring for her father with dementia, they can have an attitude or lash out in anger at you. So this is her quote. With everything they do, forgiveness follows. I really like that. And she said that was her catchphrase while she cared for her father and her mother for several years before they moved into a assisted living. Former First Lady Rosalynn Carter said, there are 4 kinds of people in this world. Those who will become caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who were caregivers, and those who will need caregiving themselves. Have you ever fit into any or all of those categories in your life? Maybe not yet, but it could be coming. Why do we need to make changes? Because ignoring your own physical and emotional needs leaves you unable to provide the care for your loved one that you really want to. As much as 70% of the caregivers show signs of depression, with many of them taking prescription medications for anxiety or even dying before their care receiver. I've been here 35 years. I can't tell you how many people exactly, but I can tell you there's a lot of times that when they finally bring their loved one into the nursing home, they don't live a whole lot longer. Clearly, you can't be an effective caregiver unless you take good care of yourself first. You can see in this picture, it's one of those pictures that if you've ever flown in a plane, you see that they tell you to put your oxygen mask on before helping others. And I think that's such a good symbol, because if you're not taking care of yourself and you're physically exhausted, or you fall down to health problems, now you can't take care of your loved one either. So you really need to take care of yourself. So here's a quote from one of our caregivers. Just remember, there is a lot of life out there to live. You have to keep going with your own life and projects. Even when it's hard to do that, You can't get too lost in the person you love that you forget what is important to you. If you do, you're no good to them. How can we make little changes to improve our day? Laugh about something. One of the quotes from our caregiver is, "We take time to laugh because sometimes you have to find humor in the situation to save your sanity and reminisce about the old days." That's always a good thing, to reminisce. Eating a well-balanced diet, and I'm not talking diet like lose weight. I'm talking a balanced diet where you're eating good food. Because if you go to the state fair and you eat junk food all day long, you feel like crap by the end of the day. So of course, if you eat a well-balanced diet, your body will feel better. And reducing daily caffeine intake. Maybe you decide you can't drink caffeine after 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something. It's going to help you sleep better, and it's going to help with the anxiety. Get adequate rest. It helps to create a routine and try to stick to it. If you are unable to sleep 4 to 5 nights a week and sleep good, then you need to talk to the doctor, because the doctor needs to help you with that. And of course, if you're feeling overwhelmed, then you need to get professional help. Seeking professional help can be hard sometimes. Why people don't think they need help? They think they're handling it, or maybe they're just embarrassed to say, "I can't handle it." Maybe fear or distrust of someone you're talking to. Maybe your loved ones. I'll tell you, Tanya's loved ones told her, "Buck up. You can do this. This is your job. This is your job as a wife." Or maybe it's just money. Maybe there's no insurance coverage for talking to a professional. But why should we get professional help? Because they can relieve tension. They can improve sleep. It lowers your pain levels, improve your motivation for life. And it's a caring yet unbiased person to help you sort feelings and emotions. Teresa and I would be considered professional help with our caregiver support services. And there's no cost to you, because we have grants, state and federal grants, that pay for us to support our caregivers. You need to set aside time for yourself. It might just be 10 minutes to go out to the garden, to take a walk outside, just to be in a different room. Regularly attending support groups can be very helpful for some people, because they find other people that are going through the same situation, and maybe they have tips or different ideas for you. Know your limitations and let your family and friends help. Journaling can be a safe place to write your innermost thoughts, and it can be very therapeutic. You could start a gratitude journal, writing in each day the things for which you're thankful. It could be simply that the sun came out, or today it could be simply that it rained. Maybe it's because you woke up in the morning. Maybe that's the only positive thing you can find for the day. But at least if you can find something positive, it makes it better. Find reasons and ways to celebrate. Don't forget birthdays and other special days. If you've always celebrated your anniversary, do something special. Make a special dinner, make the favorite dessert, something to make that day still feel special. And you can always invite family and friends over to visit, but only if they're the positive people. Don't bring negative people into your home. Bring someone that's going to surround you with happiness. I recently learned a new way to look at stress management. We all have the same size cup. As life happens, our cup starts filling up. Maybe we have a doctor's appointment and it just feels overwhelming. Maybe our daughter is having some troubles. Maybe we've got more than one thing, which most of us do, going on at the same time. Our cup keeps filling up as more and more things come into our life. What we need to do is learn how to pour out from that cup to help reduce the stress. That might mean just that walk outdoors. It might mean taking time to quilt or read or whatever hobby you might be doing. I'm a quilter, and if I don't have time to quilt, that's okay. I'll walk into my room, my quilting room, and I look at fabric and I pick 3 fabrics that maybe match, and I think, I got to decide what pattern to do with that. Touching and feeling that piece of fabric calms me immediately. So you need to find something that calms you. When your body is stressed, it usually becomes tense, and often just a touch from someone we trust can help us to relax and pour a little bit out of that cup. Our 5 senses are essential for happiness. Taste. When you make your meals, is it a task that needs to be completed? Or you take time to eat and enjoy your food? You know, even cooking for some people can be enjoyable. Don't rush as if it's just something that needs to be done. Your vision. Take a walk or sit outside and enjoy nature. Watch the sunrise or the sunset. And if you can't be outside, pull the drapes open, pull the shades open so you can see outside and you can let the natural light come in. Smell. Take time to smell flowers, baking bread, cookies, fresh fruit. There's a lot of smells that make us feel good. Just feel good smell. Hearing. Listen to music you enjoy. When you're outside, listen for the birds. You know, my husband and I have a place up north. And the other day, this would have been a couple months ago already, I guess, I was sitting outside and it was not windy down at the ground level, but the trees on top were blowing, and just the wind rustling through the trees was an interesting sound. I remember when my now 29-year-old son was in daycare, and we came out of the daycare and he pointed at the birds. It's so funny because I never even think about birds. They're always there. They're always making noise. But unless you take time to listen to them, you don't notice them. And touch. Hold hands with your loved one. Make sure you get and give a hug daily. Touch is one of the most essential needs in someone's life. They're going to benefit, and so are you. So here's a quote from a loved one. My loved one struggles to remember things, but with prompting or with sharing some stories, I see the spark in there. That's what I search for. And even if it's a small spark, it makes me feel love, and that is what gets me through each day. Tips for preventing caregiver stress. Focus on what you're able to provide. Understand that no one is perfect and you do the best you can, but sometimes you need help. Set realistic goals. Break large tasks into smaller steps so you can do one thing at a time. Get connected. Find out about caregiving resources in your community. Many communities have classes specifically about the disease that your loved one has, whether it be dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whatever it is, you can learn about that specific disease. Caregiving services such as transportation, meal delivery, and housekeeping may also be available. Join a support group. A support group can provide validation and encouragement, as well as problem-solving strategies for difficult situations. People in support groups understand what you're going through, and you can create meaningful friendships. Accept help when it is offered, or ask for help when it's needed. So I'm going to repeat myself over and over, but it's because I want you to get it. When a friend or a family offer their help, accept it. When a doctor offers home services, accept it. If you have the opportunity for someone to come and clean your house, mow your lawn, or just shovel your walk, accept it. It's one less thing that you have to worry about. Sometimes we have to accept change. It's okay. You're doing the best you can. There are people in this world that care about you. Speak up and ask for help. Don't let your pride be in the way of asking for help. You know, if there's nothing else I've learned around this small community in Buffalo, and I'm sure there's many other communities that are like ours, the community wants to help each other. They just don't always know where the need is, so you need to speak up. So here's a quote from one of our caregivers. Asking for help is not easy. And even getting a few hours of help from other family or friends can make the difference in my life and in my loved one's life. So there are other options. There's in-home respite. There's adult day centers and programs. There's short-term help in nursing homes. Some caregivers work outside their home. In fact, nearly 60% of caregivers work outside their home. If you work outside your home and you're a caregiver, you may begin to feel overwhelmed. Employees are covered under the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act and are able to take up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave a year to care for a resident, their relative. Sorry, my words are getting mixed up. Ask your human resource office about the options of unpaid leave, if that's something that would benefit you. You are not alone. If you're like many caregivers, you have a hard time asking for help. Unfortunately, this attitude can lead to feeling isolated, frustrated, and even depressed. And you know, this last year has made it multiple times worse because we can feel alone even though we're just fine. Rather than struggling on your own, take advantage of local resources for caregivers. To get started, check out the Elder Care Locator or contact your local area agency on aging to learn about services in your community. Here's a few resources that I used for today's presentation. Minnesota Board of Aging, that's And Minnesota has 7 area agencies on aging. Central Minnesota Council on Aging is one that helps us with our caregiver support. And then there's other ones, Senior Linkage and Mayo Clinic, of course. Our caregiver support services provide caregiver support at a time when caregiving can be overwhelming and can lead to caregiver burnout. Our services provide education to caregivers, especially about dementia, and tips on how to de-escalate challenging behavioral expressions. We provide education sessions on advanced healthcare directives, how to create balance in your life. In August, we have Safety in the Home coming up. And later on in the year, we're going to have one that's living with grief and loss. Helping our parents age in place by referrals to other services available. We provide support making emergency care plans and facilitating family meetings if they're needed. We also have volunteer respite that can provide 2 to 4 hours weekly as needed and when available. Caregiver support services could you benefit from caregiver support? We want to be there for you if we're needed. Would you benefit from some time to yourself? We can help with that too. Teresa and I both have our phone numbers at the end of the presentation here. If you would like a copy of the presentation, please call or email me. I'll be glad to send a copy of this to you. And I think for right now, I'm probably going to quit sharing the screen and see if we can open it up to some questions.
People can type in the chat.
So we have, well, in the chat room, I see that Patty Riley said, need to give care. Hope to get back before you're done. So does anyone have any comments or questions or anything, even if it doesn't have to do with specifically caregiver burnout?
I liked what you said, Barb, about what you do to relieve stress, and that's quilting. Like, I think everybody needs to have those ideas in their back pocket, you know, because you can tell, like, when you start to feel tense and your shoulders are kind of tight. Mine are kind of tight right now. They're kind of tight and you're like, I just really need a break. Listening to music is huge for me, at least. And then reading is a big one for me too, just to kind of just get your mind off the day to day and just kind of escape for a little bit, a healthy escape. And I think that's really, really important. So I'm just curious what other people do for like their stress relief, because we're all so different and we have different things that we enjoy. I'm just curious what everybody else does.
Does anybody think about like our 5 senses and did that make sense to you? Do you feel sometimes like you're maybe eating a meal because it's time to eat and it's a task that needs to be done instead of Tammy's laughing.
I found myself eating a sandwich as I unloaded groceries today because I hadn't had time to eat. I didn't enjoy it. I just ate it.
Yeah.
The being outside, the listening to nature, listening to music, you know, that is very powerful. Yeah. But I'm also a crocheter. So if I can sit in front of Chicago Fire for a few hours or crochet, I'd be happy.
Yes.
But if I get a half hour, that's pretty good.
Yep. And like I said before, if I don't have time, I just go into my room. I move the fabric around, touch it, makes me feel good to think about the next quilt that I'm going to make or something. And that's all I need.
Mhm,
And I would bet that even if you had yarn in your hand
mhm.
and you weren't crocheting, it would
Mhm.
make you feel good.
It does. Mhm.
Yes. Yes. Well, I don't want to call on anybody because, I don't know you ladies very well, and I don't know, I don't feel comfortable just calling on you. But if you'd like the PowerPoint, the presentation, if you'd like our phone numbers, when you got the Zoom invite, you got my email with it, please feel free. Deb, if you want to call Teresa, you're more than welcome to do that too.
Wrote down her number, so yeah, we have it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's what we do. That's what we're here for. And Teresa and I have both been in the field of healthcare for about 35 years each. And so it's kind of interesting as you work through all of the different positions that you've had, that you realize the caregivers are just as important as the patients you take care of.
I'll probably share, I'll
And we
probably
want-
share this information with my
What's
care
that, Deb?
coordinators at my clinic that I work at. So this might be
Absolutely.
for them as well. Mhm.
And you've got brochures too.
We also have brochures, Deb. So if you are interested,
Okay.
we can
All right.
And we have volunteers.
send them out.
Okay, that sounds good.
Maybe say something about volunteers.
Right now we have 4 volunteers that provide respite to our caregivers. Let me just give you the example of the one that's yesterday. One of our caregivers likes to go out in the garage and do stained glass. Well, her husband has been known to fall. So it's scary for her to go into the garage and know that he's alone in the house. So this caregiver is going to come one afternoon a week, spend 2 to 4 hours with him so that she can just go out in her garage and zone out and do her stained glass.
Yeah.
So that's taking care of yourself.
Yes. How are you getting volunteers?
Well, we have done several things. We have been in all the local newspapers advertising our caregiver support services and volunteer respite. Teresa and Courtney have both been on KRWC radio, I think between the two of them 4 or 5 times, talking about not only programs like this, but also telling people that we're looking for volunteers or caregivers, both. We've also presented it to some of our groups, like at the Senior Center in Buffalo, the Delano Senior Center. We had plans to go out. We actually made a video about volunteering, and we sent that out to all of our local churches and different community organizations. So we're looking for good volunteers that have the heart.
Good.
Well, I think it's about almost 7:15, and if no one else has anything, like I said, you're more than welcome. Oh, I see my email is on there too, so you're more than welcome to contact myself, or if you know Teresa, contact Teresa. We want to help you, okay? And as I said during the presentation, we have grants, federal and state grants that pay us for our time. So there's no cost to you. Okay,
Sounds good.
Thank you.
thank you all
Thank
for
you, Barb.
joining us.
Great.
You have a good evening.
You
too.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.